smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.
All right. Hey, beautiful people. So if you have never been in my podcast before, thank you for being here. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing their story. And the goal behind what I do is to just help people kind of shift the way they think. I realize like how much we struggle, how much we get stuck in our struggle. So I really wanted to bring on people that are empowering people to help us kind of think a little differently. And today's March 4th. We are like almost a year since we were told that there was this pandemic. And it's been about a year, got to be a year since I've been video podcasting. So I've been podcasting actually since July 2018 on audio. And the video started almost a year ago. So that's exciting that I've been able to do that. But also I've been thinking a lot about how long we've been kind of in this pandemic. And, you know, now that the vaccines and things are out, I'm thinking a lot about people and how much people are, you know, we were bracing ourselves to try and stay safe. And now that things are starting to look a little bit differently with the vaccines, I think now we are dealing with mental health and stress, which brings me to my guest. I'm going to add him onto the stream because he is doing something super dope. And I'm going to have him, even though he's in New York, you know, you're in New York, right, Brett?
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that, you know, because the Giants like kind of took us out a couple times, but I like what you're doing. So I'm gonna give you a pass.
So you are in Boston, so there's definitely some stuff going there, right? With the Yankees, Red Sox, you know, it goes back pretty deep. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on. All joking aside, what you do is awesome, and it's an honor to be with you. So yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you want to talk about stress? Those 2 Super Bowls was very stressful for me.
My favorite too. Those are my favorite too. But I am happy to see like Tom Brady doing his thing in Tampa.
Okay.
That's actually cool because I used to not like him.
Now you like him?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm a big fan now. Yeah, so
I hate you so much.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to have you on. So as I was just talking to the audience about stress has been something that I think we've been under a lot more stress than we have in history with everything that's happening and as a collective, as a group, right? And your organization is called Stress Is Gone. But before I talk about that, I kind of want to let my audience get to know who you are. Like, because sometimes I think when people like you and I are doing this work, people think we've just kind of like always been in this space and not understood that it was kind of a journey to us getting to where we are. So were you born and raised in New York?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Queens. Single mom, raised me and my brother. I was the oldest by 2 years. And so grew up in Bayside, Queens, and, you know, rode dirt bikes, BMX bikes, skateboards, played football, went to high school at St. Francis, and then went to SUNY Albany, played a little bit of football there. And then my first job out of college relocated me to California after I was there for a year, right?
Nice.
And then my world changed when I was in California, right? So I got into like meditation, spiritual healing. So a little bit of my history, right? Like my emotional history, right? Like the history of my issues, right? My stress.
I want to know about your issues, Brett.
Let
me know about your issues.
Sure. So I'm open with that stuff because I feel like I'm just like anyone else. And, you know, we were born with certain things, we go through certain things, and then it affects how we are in the world. Absolutely. So the biggest thing that affected me was my parents' divorce when I was 6, right? So that sadness turned into anger around my 12, 13, 14, 15 year, you know, when I'm that age. And then throughout my 20s, and it also morphed into jealousy, right? Because it was all coming down to my fear of abandonment. So in my relationships with women, that fear of abandonment really kicked in hard, my mid to late teens, and then also my mid to late 20s. And I was 27, had the job I wanted, the salary, the bank account, everything was there, had the relationship I wanted, but my jealousy was coming up again and rearing its ugly head and screwing it up. So got into meditation, and then went on kind of like this inner journey, met some teachers, kind of like, spiritual healers and things like that. And one in particular really helped me out with my jealousy. And within a few moments of talking to this man, the images of from very young in childhood, 5 and 6, where I learned the jealousy behavior by watching my parents argue when I was very young, that's where it started to set in. And what I found was what I watched when I was little, that's how I argued with all my girlfriends. So it was like the same blueprint of behavior. It was like a karmic pattern. So in that session with that person, I was able to unlock and release the core traumas that I absorbed when I was very young, around my parents' divorce, around them fighting, around the instability when I was that age, and then around not having my father around. I always longed for him, and that is what really turned my life around and changed how I spent my time. So ever since that session, I was kind of like blown away by it. And I just investigated it a little bit more each day, working with the energy of transforming emotions. And then, over the last 21 years, I developed the Stress is Gone method, which teaches people how to do it on their own. So you don't have to go on this like journey to India, to the Himalayas to find somebody to help you, drop the baggage. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's good. I appreciate you sharing that. I want to just go back 1 second around the time when you talked about struggling with the jealousy and all that. Just for my listeners, it's not like during those years you knew like, oh my gosh, I'm jealous, or oh my gosh, I feel fear. Like none of that happened during the time when you were 12 and 13. This was something you realized later.
Yeah. So I started having, girlfriends probably age 15, 16. And then the jealousy became a behavior in how I was relating to my girlfriend. So like if she was talking to another guy, or if I thought that she looked at another guy, I would have reactions, and I would be verbal about those reactions, right? I was in fear of losing the love that I had next to me, right, with that relationship. So the problem is that fear of losing it is like the biggest teeth to chase it away, right? So it's like so self-destructive. So that's what was happening. I didn't realize, I knew I had an issue with jealousy probably 17, 18, but I didn't know there was anything that I could ever do about it. And then it just kept on showing up in more relationships as I grew and got older into my mid to late 20s. And by the time I was 27, I was like, enough is enough. I want to master this thing. I don't want something that I'm doing to be destructive in my life. You know what I mean? And there were so many things when I was younger that I used to do that were destructive in my life that I was able to kind of like skim the fat off in my own behavior. And really it came down to the pain that was in my heart, that getting in touch with that pain, unlocking it and releasing it is what set me free from a lot of those behaviors.
That's amazing. One of the things that people don't understand is how the body keeps the score. And I think when we hear Brett's story around how something that happened at age 6 years old, or, like affected him at 27 years old, and people are confused about how does that happen? How is it that abandonment carried on all of those years? Can you explain to the listeners like how that works for the people that this may be like a foreign concept for them to understand? And I know this for a lot of people.
Sure. So our stress is very smart, right? It helped us get through like the caveman days. And, if you think about the things that you heard those stories about a mom that, their child is trapped under a car and they were able to lift up the car enough just to get the child out. Our body is designed to survive. Our stress is very smart. And it enabled us to get to this point in evolution. The only problem is that it's over-triggered, right? And that's really the problem. So the stress is causing diseases and illnesses and things like that. So to get back to your question, how does this work with like a childhood trauma, right? Our stress is so smart that if something happened to me when I was 10, our body unconsciously and subconsciously remembers that. So the next time it sees something similar, your body's going to automatically go into a fight or flight reaction. Okay. So if there was a situation with, your dad, you might have a similar stress reaction in your body with your boss, right, at your job. So that chemical reaction is similar. The tension's triggering from the same place. Those old memories are stored in your body. So I could give you an example just from myself. A lot of the stress that I've learned about through my own self goes back to when, I was younger, right? So I was like 37, I was single, right? I had, a few dollars in my pocket. I'm a decent looking person. I'm not a bad guy. I'm like, why am I still single?
You're
So
right, Brett. You're all right, Brett.
I'm okay. You know what I mean? So I'm okay, right? So I'm like, why am I still single? Like, what's going on here? So I'm walking in the park, and then it was like, hit me like someone with a megaphone. And this happened to me a few times in my life. I heard this loud and clear. You are used to being in love with someone you're deeply upset with, right? You're used to loving someone you're deeply upset with. And then I sat down on a bench, and this is cool because I was actually in Crocheron Park, which is right where I grew up, and I was actually in my childhood park. So I sat down where I've, hung out, played basketball and football, and just hung out with my friends for decades, earlier. And I'm like, wow, so I'm used to loving someone that I'm deeply upset with, right? And it's a female, right? Because it's how I'm relating to females. So I'm like, okay, it's my mom. And then I remembered a moment that I had with my dad when I was very young. And he said that I would be back in the house, but your mom won't let me. So at that moment, it set in that I was very upset with my mom, right? So why I'm sharing this is that I want people to understand, like, getting in touch with your issues is like you're unraveling a mystery, right? And the mystery underneath it all is your authentic self. And when we go through life, stuff happens. And when we go through life at earlier ages, stuff happens. And guess what? Our parents, they're what we got, right? And they did the best they can. Even if they bolted, right? If they weren't around, maybe that would have been better than if they were around at that time in their life, right? It could have been more destructive if they were in the house at that time. So what I'm trying to say is everyone does the best they can, and that no one's perfect, and the world is kind of messy, right? So like we get traumatized, and getting in touch with your traumas, I feel, is the key to breaking free of all of your baggage and, like getting in touch with and nurturing the authentic you.
I love that so much. And it's about healing the inner child, right? And I always say Will Smith had this like speech he did, and he said fault and responsibility are two different things. So and as I teach my healing the inner child class, it's not about blaming a parent or a caregiver, but it's about understanding. And then we understand what happened, but then taking responsibility, so you're not holding on to that anger. It sounds like that's kind of the transformation that took place for you.
Yeah, that was a big piece. And I think I was like 30, and I moved back from California a little bit. Maybe it was like when I was 32 or 33, I was having a conversation with my dad, and we were having a real conversation. And I was like, not a little pissed, but I was like, dude, like, why'd you never show up? You know what I mean? Like, there was birthdays, there was times he called, he'd be like, I'll be there in 5 minutes. And he didn't show up. And that was like when I was very young, that was very formative. I was always waiting for him on the stoop. And my mom would always, check on me and be there with me. She was my rock throughout all that. But it was still, treacherous waves emotionally, when you want a parent there and they're not there. So as an adult, I confronted him and talked to him. And he said, Brett, I was right down the block, but I couldn't turn the corner. It was too painful for him to turn the corner and face our family because it fell apart for him. You know what I'm saying? It was too painful for him to show up. And I remember one time when I was really young, him and my mother were arguing in the nighttime in the front lawn, and I was going outside because I wanted to see him, and I was crying. And I remember he brought me upstairs and put me in the dark and shut the door. And I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like that was like crazy traumatic. And then they were continue arguing, then he left. And then my mom came and got me. So like, that was the best that he had. He didn't, in that moment, you know, he didn't have any better. Now my dad, his mom died of suicide when he was young, around the same age when my parents got divorced. I think he was 5 when his mother died from suicide. Then he went to Vietnam. And late in his tour, I think around 11 and a half months, he had to come back for his older brother's funeral. And his older brother was like his kind of guiding light. And the government made him go back to Vietnam to serve out his few remaining weeks. And he definitely did not think he was coming back from that. But I'm very grateful that he did, because I wouldn't be here. So like he's gone through stuff that I don't know who I would be if I went through what he went through. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, when you understand the lineage of the baggage, you kind of like have a new sincere reverence for the fragileness of human life, and like the importance of just saying how you feel to get it out, you know?
That's good. I really enjoy that. That makes so much sense. And I know people are going to find value in you sharing that perspective and how it related to you as far as the body keeping the score. I want to talk about stress is gone, but one of the big reasons why I started this podcast, I'm a therapist in America. When they think about mental health, we only think about psychiatry and therapy. Nothing wrong with it. I'm a therapist. I don't think it's nothing wrong with it, but I do believe there's so many other modalities of healing that aren't talked about enough. What do you think it was that that allowed you, or what made you decide to see like a spiritual healer? Because that's not one of those kind of modalities that we talk about in America. I'm just curious about that part.
So my awakening path was very, it was kind of like the universe was hitting me over the head with pots and pans at this point. I was 27. One night I had 3 different things come at me to take a transcendental meditation class, right? Then I took that class. My first solo meditation totally blew my mind wide open. And then, so at the same kind of time period as I'm like starting to like the eggshell starting to crack, right? From like my awareness being 1 foot around my head and wide open, expanding my awareness, right? So my mom doesn't go see like psychics a lot or anything like that, but she came across the psychic, her friend brought her there, and the psychic was dead on with me and my brother and my mom. And so my mom's like, Brett, I think you should talk to this lady, because she like blew me away how amazingly on point she was. And there's no way she could have known those things unless she was dialed into like a different intelligence. So I tried to call this woman for like 6 months and she wasn't picking up. So it was the day after my solo meditation that I'm like, let me call Tara. I bet you she's going to pick up the phone. So she picks up the phone and the first thing she says is, thanks for hanging in there, kiddo. Like I had to get to a certain point in my own evolution that she would even receive my call. And then when we did the session, she told me 3 things off the bat that happened to me that I never told anybody. And I was like, right there, she created credibility with me, like instant credibility. Like she is dialed in and now I'm listening. So after her session, she referred me to that healer, that spiritual healer. And the next weekend, myself and my ex-girlfriend drove out from California to Sedona, Arizona to meet with him. So that's how I connected with him.
Ah, okay, that makes sense. So now we know Brett did not have a stress-free life, right? Like, because your whole organization is about working on releasing the stress. So tell us about Stress is Gone. What does that mean to you, and why did you name it Stress is Gone?
Yeah, so it's my platform to share the tools that I've been honing and crystallizing since I got into this field in 1999. Clients of mine, you know, I would do those sessions with them. We'd quickly identify the traumatic memories that was fueling their routine stress, you know, the stress in their relationship or at work. We would get to those original core traumatic memories. We would repattern them with inner peace, tranquility, confidence, and that would change their reactions in the real world, those automatic reactions. So around 2008, I kept on getting this recurring question from my clients, like, okay, I'm much better, but what do I do the next time I get stressed? Like, what do I do? So I came up with stress stopper breath work, right? And the technique is whenever you get stressed, right, you use your right hand and you touch the tension in your body, right? The area of tension that you have while you're in the middle of an emotional stress reaction, that's where the original traumatic memories are logged in your body. So you touch the tension. So when the calm cells touch the tense cells, there's a transference of energy and it balances out, okay? So that touch is healing in itself. So the first thing you do is touch the tension. The second thing you do is start breathing deep and slow. And science tells us that's how we could manually transfer from stress to rest, just by breathing deep and slow. So the first thing is do the touch, then the deep, slow breath. And then the third thing is the I'm okay mantra. Once per breath, you silently say the words, I'm okay. All right. When you combine those 3 steps, you continue to do it until all the tension goes away. Okay. And that's stress stopper breath work. You can practice when you're going to sleep at night with one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly button. And you usually knock out in about 5 minutes.
Wow. And breath work is so amazing. And I tell people a lot of times we're walking around tense and we don't even know it. We just kind of, when we're our body starts to like just walk around like this and we don't realize like we're not even relaxed. And I say, try working on taking breaths even when you're not stressed, so that it can be an automatic response to when you're stressed, you have that to tap into. I look at it like your method. I think of it as medicine, non-pharmaceutical medicine, but it's what you need to get through those hard times.
It's natural medicine and it's our life force. Our breath carries the life force that every one of our cells needs, and if you give your body what it needs in moments of stress, the stress starts to unlock and release. So that is what I found is the simplest and quickest way. Touch the tension, breathe deep and slow, and silently say, I'm okay. That does make your body's stress reaction go away. And with practice, it sometimes takes 10, 15 seconds after about a month of practice. So it works fast. It might take about 2 minutes when you first start using the technique, but after that, it's really fast. So that's one important technique I share everywhere I go and whoever I talk with.
And for people listening, one thing that's important to understand is that when we're introducing a foreign concept, for people that may be used to stress, a foreign concept to our life, it can feel like it's not working, or it can feel very hard to do, or maybe like, is this really working? But I promise it's really important to work on some kind of routine and consistency and intentionality when you are going to start to like kind of do this kind of work that you're doing, whether it's this work or any kind of thing that has to do with working on your healing. Give your system a chance to kind of catch up to what you're trying to introduce it to.
Right. And an easy way to do that is the Stress Is Gone mobile app. We also have an app called PTSD Free. What you do is if you go into the stopper tab on the bottom left, you answer 2 questions, and now the phone, your mobile phone, knows when you're going to be stressed, and it pings you with stress stopper breath work 3 minutes before your stress triggers. So now you're marrying your stress with the relaxation. And if you stick with it through that little battle of the ego that's saying, this is stupid, it's not going to work. If you stick with it and you get past and you get over that hump, within a minute or 2, you're going to feel the tension release from your body. And you'll be like, oh my God, stress is gone. That's what it's about. It's not about making the whole world of stress go away forever. It's about how to make it go away in the moment you feel it. And remember to use the technique.
That was going to be my other point, is that, stress is going to happen. Life happens when we least expect it. But I don't think we understand the tools. Like, how is it? Like, I don't think, growing up in America, we're taught how to make money, how to get a career, but we're not taught how to live. We just know how to survive. And I feel like what you're offering people is a way to live.
It absolutely is a way to live. And with anxiety being such a big problem now, given the pandemic, given, the heated, battles, from political opinions, and stuff like that, there's so much emotional stress throughout our society. I feel like that is such a tidal wave in itself, and it's its own pandemic. And people are going to have, people are getting PTSD, first responders that are dealing with, high COVID cases in hospitals and stuff like that. This is a traumatic moment within our society and in our world. So I feel like understanding how to vent your anxiety is so important. And if we could, share that technique with your listeners too, I feel that would be great.
Yeah, we're going to do that. And I just want to kind of share people about what is the stress is gone method, so that people can understand this. So it says, understanding the source of stress, processing the accumulated stress, using technology to automate our stress management, which we just talked about. Then you say it has 4 distinct phases. Can you tell people about those 4 phases?
Yeah, so we have music to movement. I created 12 movements that you would do within your body, and it releases all the tension from your head to your toes. Then we do an assessment, and I'm glad we're talking about this. So when I ask people, where's your stress coming from? They'll say finances, being at home, working remotely. It could be looking for a job. It could be, my spouse, could be my kids, could be anything. That's what I call routine stress. And then I ask them, what emotion is fueling it? Where do you feel the tension in your body the last time you had an intense reaction? And what thought was going on in the back of your mind repeatedly, right? So once we identify the emotion, the location of the tension, and the thought that repeats, then we use that information as a flashlight to go back into the subconscious to find the original traumatic memory. Then we bring that to the surface, and then we use a few techniques, one of them being stress stopper breath work, to repattern the memory. And then we use a few other techniques as well to unlock and release the tension from the memory and from the body and from the psyche. And that's part of phase 3, the guided expression, to reduce the emotional stress. And then we end up with a meditation. And that's typically when I do a stress is gone class.
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. That was really good. I think that sounds like you have it down pat. And now we're going to do a couple of techniques that Brett does, and we're going to do it together. And so for people listening, definitely take time to try this out, especially if you find yourself feeling stressed, because not only does it prevent us from it prevents us and keeps us stagnant, but also it can have medical ramifications as well, high blood pressure, so many different things. I think that for me, I remember I was in a hospital one time with oxygen level under 90 and overnight, and they said everything was fine. And it was like, you want to see a doctor, a social worker, right? And I was 19 at the time. I had no idea that not taking care of yourself mentally could lead to medical complications. So I think it's really important. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. We can feel it. And when you get in touch with your body, you'll start feeling your body's been giving you some signs. You've just been ignoring them.
Right. So before COVID, heart disease was the number 1 killer in our country. The number 1 cause of heart disease is stress.
Yeah.
So stress is the number 1 proxy killer. Again, that's before COVID. So looking at, the state of the world and the state of our country and, the whole pandemic, I feel like anxiety is out of control in a lot of our bodies, and it's, bringing people down. So when I think of stress, I feel like, we have a stress reaction, and if it goes unchecked and it keeps on happening, then anxiety develops, right? And then if anxiety is unchecked and it continues to happen, and usually it does if it's unchecked and you don't have a good plan to deal with it, then depression comes in, right? So it's like a 3 stages, right? So the idea is to catch it at the stress level, right? So when you're stressed out, get to the root of it, release it, and don't let it build up. But most of us don't know how to do that. So let's talk about venting anxiety for a minute. I started thinking about this more and more at the beginning of the pandemic, just from talking to folks and, realizing that something we need a simple tool to help us just vent anxiety, because it's not something you could just touch and do and it's going to go away. Anxiety is like a motor. When it's going, it's like a V8 motor inside your body, and it's pumping, so we have to vent it, right? And also stop fueling it. So the first thing I have people do when that anxiety is at level 11 is identify where they feel tension in their body, right? And some people feel it all over, literally, when the anxiety is high.
I feel it in my back when I usually have it. It's all in my back.
So is it from like a posture thing, or is it from you're sitting in a certain posture?
Yeah, I think when I'm overwhelmed and stressed, I'll tense up, right? And then this is now as an adult, I've learned this. Growing up, I used to have problems with my back and no diagnoses, but I recognize now it's like that's where I hold my tension. It's like in my back.
Between your shoulder blades?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like where a lot of people hold obligation. Like if you have a lot of things on your plate and you feel you got to do it without any help, that's one thing. And then not feeling like someone literally has your back, like someone that you could rely on, like a partner, you know what I mean? Or a rock, you know what I mean? So sometimes we store stuff back there when that happens, but a lot of times it's around obligation and someone not having your back. And it could be someone in your life that you're afraid is going to stab you in the back, right? So it's not like a negative person in your life, not literally, but a negative person in your life that doesn't have your back and they're close to you, right?
And this is just one, like I use myself as an example, but people can store it anywhere, just so we're clear. It doesn't always happen in people's back. Okay.
So when you have a lot of tension in your stomach, usually that means you're holding things down and pushing them down. Things that wanted to be said decades ago, like you're holding it down, you push it down. So solar plexus is when you store it in your solar plexus, that's a lot of times when someone is taking your power from you. Like you feel like something has disempowered you. So the areas of the body give you signals of what types of baggage you got. You know what I'm saying? So obligation, just imagine your life without any obligation. Everything you did from now on was you did because you wanted to do it. And I'm sure like this podcast, I'm sure your life is coming to a point where you are doing more things that you want to do out of desire and passion. You know what I mean? But so we go through like an evolution with that stuff about where the tension is. So if we get back to the anxiety component, if you are going through a lot of anxiety, I would ask you just to identify the part of your body that is feeling the most tension in the middle of that anxiety when you're feeling the emotion. So let's say it's your chest, right? You put your hand there. Then I would want you to complete this statement. Right now, I feel completely overwhelmed with, and then fill in the blank with the type of emotion. It could be fear, it could be anxiety, it could be sadness, it could be stress, it could be anything, depression, whatever it is, I want you to label it, okay? Then the next statement I want you to complete is the scariest part of this entire situation is, and then you fill in the blank, right? And this is if you're going through a lot of anxiety. And then the final question is, given this situation, my biggest fear is, and then you fill in the blank. Okay? Now, when you get in touch with where the tension is in your body and what your biggest fear is, when you verbalize your biggest fear, tension starts to disengage from your body. You're going to feel layers start to come off. And as that's happening, then I want you to touch the tension and put one hand on your belly button and start to do stress upper breath work, because that starts to reground your body into a place of calmness. So any living cell on the planet is programmed for stress, but it's also programmed to get back to a state of homeostasis. So we're just helping our body get back to that state of homeostasis when we verbalize our biggest fear, and then when we reground with stress upper breath work. So that technique, I feel, will save folks so much mental anguish, emotional pain, just by giving yourselves that outlet. And from an emotional standpoint, when you verbalize your biggest fear, you might cry. Understand that that's just the body going through a car wash, right? That's a natural process, okay? And if you're one of those folks that is not comfortable crying and things like that, I want you just to realize that it is as basic as breathing, going to the bathroom, brushing your teeth. It is necessary, for us to experience that, especially now, right? Especially now with all the tension and anxiety and stress in our society.
And I just kind of want to piggyback on what Brett said about, these questions are so on point. I don't know if you can see, I got an emotion chart in the back because I believe in, people identifying their emotions, because I think that not identifying them, not recognizing that fear, you're giving it power and you're giving it a chance to formulate and create its own narrative. Like that's where all, this anxiety comes, these faulty thoughts come because they're going unchecked. And so the outlet that Brett is providing allows you to specify it. And then you'll be surprised when you say it out loud. I've had, in sessions and I say, okay, so what's the biggest fear? What could possibly happen? Immediately things start to release because now it's not as big as it appears to be, but it's going to feel big if you're not like talking about it.
Right. And this can like fast forward your evolution as a person and, your intelligence as an emotional being, right? Having a simple tool to like vent out your anxiety, and stop your stress in seconds. These are essential components of just being alive on the planet right now, being a person, right? I feel like we all should know how to do those things. To me, it's as basic as making like a ham and cheese sandwich. You know what I mean? Like it's essential. And it's really important for us to practice these techniques, I personally feel.
Yes, and I echo that statement. Even though it like it's simple, but when you start it, it may not feel as simple. But once you do it, it'll be like blinking your eyes. And right. I think that if you're somebody that's tired of living in survival mode, this is one of the major factors that's going to help you get back to kind of like your like baseline where you're not in like flight or fight mode. Like, and, when I'm working with people and helping them understand their emotions and what's going on, when they start to have enlightenment and feel like at ease, it's not because they hit the lottery or they got a new house or a car. It's really because they've worked on having a greater understanding with connecting their like thoughts and their mind to one another. Because that's where, the real peace is, honestly, because we can't control a lot of the elements. We can't change, a lot of the outside things overnight, but what we can do is work on the way we're feeling about it. It's a big difference.
Right. So we can't change what's going on out there in the environment, but we can change what's going on in our inner environment, right? And the biggest way, from what I found, is to take like your top 3 or 4 most traumatic experiences, unlock and release all the tension, repattern it with inner peace, breathe in your own divine essence. It changes the whole inner space and it changes your perspective on how you perceive those old stressors. They just kind of get a little further away and they're less triggering. So it's a quick way to change within like 24 hours like that, how you're responding to certain things. And something else regarding, the past traumas, I know when you think of the ego, sometimes we're trying to hold on to the way we are now. And just to talk to that a little bit, we can't change a past event in history, but we can change the emotional imprint on a memory, right? So all we're trying to do is Jedi mind trick ourselves a little bit, just enough to break free, right? So you're not in denial of what happened. If anything, you're bringing that experience right to the present moment. You're re-experiencing it. And then you're calling in unconditional self-love and using the techniques to totally transform it from the inside out, energetically. So the goal, when you look back on those experiences, is to be able to think about it, talk about it without any tension coming up in your body. And when no tension comes up, when you could reflect on those, traumatic events, then I refer to that as resolved. Like you've resolved that memory, you've resolved that core trauma. And that's a big breaking free moment.
It is. I call it reconciliation.
Yeah.
Being able to reconcile with it. And it no longer has a hold on you, So it's such a powerful experience, I think, for people to kind of work on tapping into. So is there a technique that you want to do with me?
Well, let's see. Is there any stress going on in your life right now, or what do you think?
No.
You seem like a pretty chill person.
I'm super relaxed.
Yeah.
But maybe we can talk through. Go ahead. I'm listening.
How much time do we have?
It's much time as you need.
Okay. All right. This will only take a few minutes.
Okay.
So I do a meditation class, right now it's offered free. It's 3 times a week, 9 a.m. in the morning on this thing like Zoom. It's called Ring Central, right? So this is I want to
Don't
give you a little
gloss
taste of it.
over that. You said it's free. Say it a little bit more information so people can know.
Okay. So it's on Ring Central. You just download Ring Central Meetings, like the app on your phone or on your computer,
Okay.
and the access code is 582-811-3947. Okay.
Yeah.
And we do a 20-minute meditation every day, and then like a 10-minute Q&A thing. It's a nice group that we have. So I want to bring you through a mini meditation now, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
All right, cool. So I invite anyone listening to this just to get into a really comfortable position. Ideally, when we do it in the morning, I have people lie down. So people are in their bed or their couch, they lie down, and I just invite you now to get really comfortable and close your eyes, placing one hand on your heart and one hand on your stomach if you're lying down. Focusing your mind on the airflow as your chest rises and falls. I want you to bring your attention on the next breath in to the very tip of your nose, feeling the airflow touching the very tip of your nose. Breathing deep and slow, following the airflow as it moves through your sinuses, making each breath easier and easier to breathe. Breathing deep and slow, following the airflow, allowing it to unlock and release all the tension from behind your eyes. Breathing deeper and slower, following the airflow all the way towards the back of your mind. Unlocking thoughts and worries so you just unwind. Breathing deep and slow, following the airflow down into your lungs as your body fills up with life force. Allowing the life force to unlock and release all the tension throughout your chest. Inviting your next breath into the center of your heart. Unlocking and releasing tension from every single part. Breathing deep and slow, softly letting go. Releasing all anxiety. Allowing your next breath to bring you to a place where you are completely free. And using your mind to visualize the room you're in. Wiggling your fingers, your toes, your ankles, your wrists, your knees and your elbows, your shoulders and your neck, and opening your eyes when you're ready. So that was like a super mini version of the meditation that we do in the morning.
This is my second time doing a meditation on the show. I feel so relaxed.
Awesome.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
That's the goal. I mean, it's funny. Some people fall asleep when I was doing corporate meditation, like on site. There would always be a few people that would start snoring. But then I knew I was doing a good job. So like when you meditate and you fall asleep, that means the body needed rest. So it's like a compliment for a meditation teacher to have somebody knock out in a class. But yeah, so I just love when people get that taste of like the inner peace, like peace on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a game changer. It was a game changer for me. So I love sharing that part of the gift.
And for people, because I know that meditation, for me, I love, like if I'm struggling going to sleep, like if I have like something going on the next day or something just going on, period. And I use like a sound app, and it's just so relaxing. And I get so excited because I want everybody to experience it. But I also understand that people, like some people struggle with silence or struggle with, when everything stops. And I really try to stress to people that like your insides are going to keep going with or without you being involved. And so like, it's important to be involved. And even if, this was only like 5 minutes, I think, or so, even if you can only start with 1 minute, it's a great start to try to build your system up, so that you can understand what's taking place, so you can be a part of the process. Does that make sense for people that are really not like fresh meat for meditation?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect entry point. And if they start to become stress smart and like realize when their body's stressed, so many of us are walking around not realizing how much tension we have in our body, how stressed we are. You could see it in some people's eyes. You could see it in their face. You could see it, in their body. Yeah. So even like when I'm brushing my teeth, that used to be a time when my face would be tense. So I'd be like, oh, okay, while I'm brushing my teeth, I got to bring more awareness to the tension in my face and relax it. So when I'm breathing, when I'm brushing my teeth, I'm always kind of letting the airflow move through the tension. And it's just, now my life is kind of like about embracing tension and unlocking it and releasing it. But I feel like what you said, to piggyback off that, the easiest entry point into this whole kind of like lifestyle change or whatever is whenever you feel tension or you're stressed, just put your hand on the tension and just start breathing. The moment you become conscious of your breath, the air is going to get in there. The cells are going to start to open up and receive the breath. The tension is going to go away if you just bring your awareness to it, just with your mind. So touching the tension, breathing deep and slow. I feel like that right there will help people turn the corner.
That's good. Do you mind answering a couple of questions from the audience?
Sure.
Would drinking coffee have a major effect? This is somebody on YouTube. Would drinking coffee have a major effect on being stressful? Also, your ambient noise around you.
So I could jump on the coffee part, and then if you can decipher the ambient noise part.
Writer, decipher it while he's answering the first question.
Yeah. So coffee does not help stress, meaning like it doesn't help you become more calm. I'm a coffee drinker. I used to drink, when I first started working in the workplace, I was having 7 cups of coffee because I needed that much to get up, because I scheduled all my classes in college after like 1 PM, and then I had to be up at 6 AM. So anyway, I'm a coffee guy. I love coffee. I have it down to like a medium cup. But I did notice when I was first getting into meditation and practicing, if I was going to meditate after drinking a cup of coffee, I could not get as deep. The thoughts would just recycle, and I couldn't get as deep into that inner peace place that some of you may have got into just now when we did that little meditation. So I would get up a little early, do a little bit of stretching on the floor or even in your bed, and loosen up your body, and then just sit up. Have a nice cup of water, sit up and meditate or lie down and meditate for even 10 minutes,
Mhm.
and then go about your day with coffee. Now, if you're going through a lot of stress, I would absolutely minimize your coffee intake, because that just continues to drain your adrenals, and it keeps your your heart rate up, and it's definitely not helpful. So if you're going through a stressful period, I would definitely minimize the coffee, or if not, cut it out as much as you can.
And then how often should we find a quiet place?
As often as you need to. So I would say to start once a day for 10 minutes. I start people off like light. When I got into TM, they were instructing us to do twice a day for 20 minutes. So like mid-morning and mid-afternoon, whenever you needed that break. I like getting my meditations in the morning, and it just schedule it in. The Stress Is Gone app, I'll go back to that for a second. It has a My Meds tab, and it schedules your meditations for you, and it gives you like a 15-minute reminder. So I feel like often when we start a meditation practice, it literally is on the bottom of the totem pole with all the stuff we got to do. And often it gets lost and we don't end up meditating. So set your phone reminder or download the Stress Is Gone app and use the My Meds tab, just so that it's at the forefront, and schedule it during a time that you could give it 15 minutes, 10 minutes, even if you could start with 5 minutes. That's a breakthrough, and it's throwing a monkey wrench into your stress.
Yes. And one thing you said earlier, I wanted to say, when you talked about doing it in the morning, I've found that the things that we're trying to implement into our schedule, our life, if we can try first thing in the morning, so that we won't give ourselves excuses not to, it'll help, immensely.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I'm coaching clients, they're like, "Oh, I have no time in the morning." I'm like, "Well, what if you got up 20 minutes earlier?" Problem solved. So it's like, and then you could
sound
go
like me. They'd be like, "All right, like."
Right. Yeah. And then you end up going to sleep a little bit earlier too, right? Yeah.
We poke holes in their excuses. We're like, hold on, we can create time. So the writer is saying ambient noise, meaning direct sounding, because there's no free space. So what I think you're trying to say is that there's no real quiet time for you to meditate. So
okay.
Right. I think that's what they're saying.
Okay. So when you're first starting out, you might want to use like those little foam earplugs, or if you're a swimmer and you have like the earplugs that you'd use when you're swimming, you can use that. When I was in college, I actually had the ear things that you would use when you're at a gun range, those big orange ones, because my house was so loud, I would have to study, and I couldn't study with all the noise. So there's a bunch of things you could do, but I'll say this: when my son was young, and he was with me for like 3 days in a row, then he'd go back to his mom's, so he was connected to me, right? So it's not like I could just go in the other room and meditate. So if we're watching a movie, about dinosaurs and stuff, that's when I got my meditation in, and that was a loud noise. So it's just about tuning into yourself and following the breath deeper and deeper and deeper. And I'm telling you, you'll get glimpses of like this very tranquil place deep inside yourself, no matter what's going on out there. And the bottom line is, you want to get good when there's distractions, because life is a big distraction, right? So you want to get good at meditating and finding that inner place, that inner peace when you are amongst distractions. So I think it's a good place to practice, actually.
Sounds good. Thank you for answering those questions. Now, before you go, you've been talking about this this app, and I just kind of want to show people the site. Tell people, because we didn't really talk about it, but what can they expect, and where can they find it for people listening on the audio?
Okay, so if you go to brettcotter.com, you'll see, if you scroll up a second, you'll see like this little button that says break free, right? Let's see. Yeah, break free today. If you click on that, you're going to get a free mini course, right? You put your email in, and in the next 6 days, you get 4 videos from me. One video has the mobile app, the Stress Is Gone mobile app in it. One video guides you through learning stress stopper breath work. Another video is an amazing worksheet that helps you go through this whole breaking through anxiety process. Like I walked you through part of it in the in the middle of our time together today about how to express your anxiety, but then there's a whole nother side of it on how you reprogram it, and that's in the worksheet. And it's a really great mini course. It's a great introduction to the Stress Is Gone method. It connects you with me. And then if you do want any coaching, there's a coaching tab as well. I do one-on-one sessions. The work is very quick. Typically a session lasts about 30 minutes, and we identify the memory, the original traumatic memory. We unlock and release all the tension, and it's really like a miraculous process. It's very life-changing and transformational. So I encourage you, if you feel like you're just encountering the same old blocks, behaviors, or like patterns in your life, the same old obstacles, and you want to break through, the coaching program is the best way to do that. And then also the free mini course is another great way to like introduce yourself and get involved to the work. And there's a ton of testimonials on the site. I've been doing this work, the coaching work, for 20 years. And my sessions used to be longer. Sometimes they would go an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Right now, I've got it kind of honed down and crystallized into essential questions and really get to the meat and potatoes of the problem. And what happens is we're doing like inner child work very fast. And it's very, transformative. So I think your mic is off. You're on mute, Celeste.
Sorry about that.
That's
I wanted to read one of the testimonials on here from, it says, I have severe anxiety. I have been working with Brett, and he's been coaching me to calm myself down during an episode. I have to do an oral presentation in class, and it was a nervous wreck. I used the techniques I was taught. I was a little leery at first, but I did what I was taught. I immediately relaxed and came through it with flying colors. This program is amazing, and I am eternally thankful. The best part is done without medication. Thank you so much. So definitely check out this brettcotter.com, even if you start with this free mini course that he provides. I think that one of the things that tends to happen is that we can identify with struggling, but we don't always go to the next step of kind of, well, what's next, right? And I think that what you do provides people with like kind of like what's next, like where they can start. Oh, wait, sorry, you're on mute. Sorry. Go ahead.
So I feel like the mini course is a great place to start. And then if if you're going through it right now and you're just feeling way too much anxiety and stress that you're comfortable with, and you want to unload it like now, then it's the coaching. It's really fast. Some people call it like laser coaching. It really is like, I feel for like personal development and like, therapy, a lot of people that come to me have tried everything, but they can't just get over that one thing. Wow. And this really helps. And it's transformational on a physical level. People often say that they feel lighter, physically. And it's like, for me, it was like a new lease on life, to be honest, when I first received the work. And now I just, share it.
And I just want to say, because this is, for somebody on YouTube who says, I want to try the relaxation part, but COVID got me on edge. The perfect reason why to start it. I think that when we're struggling, it is hard to kind of start something. So it's not like, let me relax a little bit and then start it. Like, got to start it now. While COVID got a lot of people on edge. Believe me, you're not alone. And what's happening now. And I think like the next wave that we're going to see is people that have been struggling with a lot of mental health, issues that have not been tapped into, which is why I'm like, this is like perfect time for Brett to be on today.
Yeah. And if, this whole wave of like stress, and now it's turned into anxiety, and then it's what the pattern does. If it's unchecked, it turns into depression, right? So my whole philosophy is stay one step ahead of the stress. Learn and master stress upper breath work. If you get the app, it predicts your stress, and now you just start to become stress smart. And it's so easy once you're used to it to, like, when you realize you're stressed and you're in the middle of a reaction, just to do the technique, to touch the tension, breathe deep and slow. Once per breath, silently say, I'm okay. So it really helps us turn the corner. It really helps us stay one step ahead of stress. And it's simple, it's natural, and the free mini course is free. It doesn't cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of running out of excuses. You know what I mean? Like, just give it a shot. It's for your own health.
This is good. What Brett is asking people to do is what I kind of talk about, but you have such a concise way of, for people like to have it tap like right at their fingertips, which is something that's amazing, especially now during these like times, I think. So if this is resonating for anyone, don't let this be the last time you do something about it, and just actually, like, the next step is action. Right. Because when I believe that our bodies are self-healers, and I believe that we have everything that we need, but we just don't really know how to utilize it. And I think what you're offering people is a way to tap into, what their body's already capable of doing, but just kind of showing them how to do it.
You put it perfect. That was awesome. Yeah, we have everything we need. It's just tapping into how to open that up. Our body and every cell wants to let go of stress, but our mind is the problem. We hold on to it.
Yes.
So it's like, if we could just get the mind out of the way, then the body's going to release it. And that's what this is really all about.
Yeah. The book that really transformed me into realizing how powerful the mind was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, where he talks about, like, he gives like so many great examples on how we're literally just like holding on to things that's keeping us stuck, when if we just work on releasing it, it'll look different.
Yeah. And it changes your outlook and your perspective and your ability to perceive things. Like, when we're stressed out, our perception is very narrow. Yes. And once you start to open up and let go of the stress, your perception is like so wide, and you could see solutions that are around the bend. You know what I mean? So it's really like widening your perception, give you more options. So yeah, that's a
good point, Brett. I love that. I never said that, but I'm going to start saying it, but I am going to quote you. I'm going to say, I spoke to this great coach, Brett, and like, this is what's happening. I love visualizations, and that is going to be my go-to now. Thanks to you.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
So tell people how they can reach you. I appreciate you for being here and sharing your time with my audience.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. You're an amazing host, and I love what you do. And yeah, this was super fun for me.
You were relaxed. You wasn't stressed, was you?
Well, I was, because I emailed you like 10 times, like, where's the link? Where's the link? And you gave me the link. So, hilarious.
Wait, hold on. Once we started, you were fine. You were fine after we started. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
So it's funny. So the best way to get at me is just go to brettcotter.com, and it all starts there. And then also there's a Facebook page, brettcotter.com, and then I'm sorry, it's Brett Cotter, Stress is Gone. That's the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start a Facebook group where we're going to start to do free workshops on a closed Facebook group. So join the Facebook group. You can get at it from brettcotter.com. And then I encourage you to go to the YouTube page from brettcotter.com and check out some of the videos, because I guide people through everything from A to Z on these YouTube videos. So I encourage you to enjoy that and learn from that.
Thank you. And for people listening to this, if you go to your show notes, you'll be able to find the link to everything there. So thank you, Brett Cotter. I appreciate you. And, I was able to put aside, your New York history and have a great time with you today. So thank you.
This was awesome. If you're ever down in New York, I got to show you some places.
Okay.
Yeah. This was great. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
Bye, Brett.
God bless. Be safe.
So that was another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. I'm so grateful to him for coming on. Such a needed episode about stress. I know, it was so good. It was such a needed episode, and I learned a lot of things. This is a perfect. So for me, like, I'm really in tune to my body. I understand things, but when I hear people like Brett or read books, it always like reinforces like what I already know. And listening to him kind of talk about, especially the last thing he said around our viewpoint on our options are very narrow when we're stressed, right? So if we're always in a stressful state, it makes sense why we're only looking at the barriers, because we're so closed in. So imagine if we worked on our stress, and then we'll start to see the options. So that's why people are struggling with only looking at the barriers, because their viewpoint is so narrow. That was like so on point. And I hope he knows I'm really stealing that. I was not joking. So thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you give Brett a follow. Go to his website and download that free mini course. You can't beat free, especially if you're like, I don't know about this. Let me see what this is about. Easy way to try it out. Don't give yourself any excuses. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back Monday talking to somebody else that's doing something to empower the lives of others.
Smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.